All right, good morning, everyone. It's a little bigger. Some people want to see it bigger. There we go. All right. Here we have a continuation of what we've been learning for the last 3 days. And it's talking about the shofar and why it is that when Moshiach comes, it says there will be sounded a big shofar, and it will gather all the Jews from all the corners of the world. So the Rebbe said, why do you have to have a shofar to do that? What is exactly a shofar? Why can't God just arouse all the Jews and bring them to the land of Israel? What's the problem? He has to have a shofar, and he has to have a big shofar. What does it mean, big with small? What difference does it make? How big could it possibly be that would make a difference? It was like really big, and that would arouse the Jews to come back to Israel. How is a shofar going to do that? The shofar is just a sound, just a simple blast. Maybe it might, make people curious. Maybe it's a UFO. Maybe some sort of a earthquake or something. Might make people sort of take people out of their day-to-day boredom. But how is it going to make the Jews come back to Judaism? What has that got to do with anything? He's going to hear a shofar. He's going to, let's start doing Torah and commandments and let's go to Israel, right? And it's only going to be the Jews. The man's married to a non-Jewish woman. All of a sudden, the shofar, his wife says, "Where are you going? What are you doing?" I didn't hear that shofar. No, because you're not Jewish. So that's it. Okay, so good. What are you doing? Well, I'm going to the land of Israel. All the Jews are going. You didn't hear the shofar, so you're not going. What does that mean? Why a shofar? So now the Rebbe is explaining what exactly is a shofar.
Hello.
Hello. Okay.
Did the share start?
Share started. You are being recorded. You're famous. You're part of the class. There we go. Somebody said that I should make this bigger, so I'm trying to make it bigger. There we go. All right. So we're talking about what is the shofar. Okay, so when we talk about this thing about the shofar, it's really a very, very important subject because the shofar is just this horn, you blow on sound the shofar. It's a commandment on Rosh Hashanah to do it. It doesn't really make any sense, so why? This is the high point of the holiday. You take this horn from an animal, it has to be made exactly. It can't be, if it's split like down the length of it, it's disqualified. There's a lot of laws about where the shofar has to be. What's the point? So it's really the point of Judaism in general. It takes very external, physical, mundane things that seem to have no particular meaning to them or spirituality or holiness, just part of the world. And this becomes like the source connected to the creator of the universe. And it makes the world different. And it's doing what the creator of the universe wants. So who would ever dream, you walk down the streets, that there's a creator of the universe that's creating everything, and he's creating everything for a purpose, and this purpose is not really being served. And the Jews, because the Jews are asleep. And only when the Jews wake up and they use everything in the world or whatever comes into their life, they use it for what God wants, that changes the whole world. The whole world will be changed. Something like what it was when God took all the Jews out of Egypt, right? They were all slaves for 210 years. They had slave mentality. They had a slave past and a slave future. And that's it. A Jew was synonymous with a slave. I spilled some water, bring the Jew. The Jew was synonymous with servitude, being a slave. And the people had no dream of changing. Everybody thought that's what life is. The Egyptians were ruling the whole world, and that's just what life is. All of a sudden, one day, everything changes. the Jews become the chosen people, and they receive the Torah from God. God speaks to them on Mount Sinai, feeds them bread from heaven. What type of this is part of history. This is the Jewish Bible. This is the 10 Commandments. I am God that took you out of Egypt. Massive, incredible changes, not just physically, and not just spiritually, essentially. So that's the whole essence of Judaism. That's the whole idea of Mashiach. In other words, to do something which no one would expect. Who would expect that in this regular world that we see day to day, and you get along okay, there's the news and there's the this and there's the electricity, and everything is built on certain laws of nature and principles of physics and aerodynamics and whatever, and electrodynamics, whatever it's called. And all of a sudden the whole thing's going to change. Like everybody's going to change. Everybody like in the world is like freaking out. If there's UFOs, something is unidentified. We don't know what it is. Ooh, must be bad. Can't be good, because the world the way it is now, that's good. That's we just don't rock the boat. So it says the shofar comes to let us know that it's not so. The shofar comes to wake us up. It says that's the example that's why man is created. That's the whole holiday of Rosh Hashanah. The whole holiday of Rosh Hashanah is the celebrating. Is celebrating when the first man was created. The first man was created 5,783 years ago, minus a month. In a month's time, a little bit less than a month. It'll be Rosh Hashanah. That's happy birthday, first man. That's when he was created, 5,783 years ago, exactly. Right? Don't listen to those people who say no, that the time has changed, and there's the time warps, and the speed of light may be changed, and it's not so. What it says in the Torah exactly years, that's years. What it says days is exactly days. Okay. So exactly then, man was created. And man was created to do exactly what we're talking about now, to make a world brand new. Make the world brand new, and especially on his birthday. On his birthday, every year, to make the world brand new. Make a better world, a new world, an improved world. Remember, like we learned in the Haftorah portion of Isaiah last week, Shemaim Chadashim ve'eretz Chadasha, Eretz Chadasha, new heavens and a new earth. What does it mean it's going to be new? The laws of nature are going to change? No, the laws of nature are not going to change. Just we'll see the creator and the creation. Okay. That we said we have to pray. On Rosh Hashanah, we pray. We make God a king. That's called making God a king. Making God a king means revealing the creator in the creation. I don't know where to put this thing over here. 1 second. Yeah. Okay. Making God into a creator. Making God into a king, revealing the fact that God is creating the world, and therefore we also have to say these sentences about Zechronos. Remember, we talked yesterday about the Musaf prayer. There's 3 blessings in the middle. One of them is to remind God that He's a king. Another is to remind God that He has to remember us. God has to remember us, and the Rebbe explained why He has to remember, because the world is so incredibly far and unlike the Creator that, so to speak, God has to remember us. It's true, there's nothing except for God. God is infinitely close to us, but this He conceals. He conceals His closeness, and there's all these processes that are written in the Kabbalistic books about Tzimtzum and what's it called, and Pargud, and there's windows, and that God hides Himself from the world. That's the world. The word world means concealment. Okay. But what actually kicks this whole thing off is the shofar. The shofar is a straight voice.
Input mode.
Here we go. Okay.
Video mode.
Now I'm gonna turn off. Somebody over there is speaking, which is okay. You can speak all you want, but I'm turning off. Nothing personal. Here we go. 1 second. Someone. There you go. Okay. You see me, everyone? Yes. As to mute. There we go. Oh. I hope I'm pressing the right buttons. Okay. Yeah. What's this? What's this? 1 minute. I don't know what I'm doing. I'm pressing buttons over here. Okay. Here we go. Ready? Do you see me? Do you see me? You can write me a note over here if you see me. I'm just pressing things over here because someone was making noise. Okay. But my house, how do we make God revealed in the world? How do we do it? How do we do what Adam was supposed to do? So it says, well, we pray, we ask for God to be a king, we ask God to remember us, and what with the shofar? What is a shofar? A shofar is a straight blast. Okay. A shofar is a voice. It's not like speech. Speech is already letters. That are drawn from the brain. Letters. That's why it says God created the world with his speech. And really, God is creating the world constantly with speech, because time is also a creation. So God is creating everything, including time, is being created constantly. And he's creating with speech. Why speech? Because speech has meaning. So everything in the world has meaning to it. Everything in the world, every rock, every stone, okay, these meanings are, it says that King Solomon could understand the speech of the palm trees, it says, and of the birds. What palm trees have to say, what birds have to say, I don't know, but he understood there's something important. It says messages were coming down from the upper worlds. What's going to happen? He also a dibur speech. Nimshachim also machshava come from the thought. And the letters of thought, they come from intellect. Which is not the case. Voice, which is not the case of voice. This is not broken up into letters. This comes from the heart. And this is above understanding. Right? We see sometimes when a person is very excited, something really good happens to a person, or God forbid the opposite, a person, you can't speak. A person sometimes will just scream. Right? You won the lottery. Your son has come back home. Ki believe yesh chitzonis v'pnimis in the heart. There's the external of the heart and the internal of the heart. Hine, the outside of the heart is lamata misechel. This is below understanding. Umakabel men when it receives from it. Kamosh katuv, like it says, lefi sichlo yahalu ish. Shitpalu tamidot, that the arousal of emotions in the heart sometimes can be according to a person's intellect. Ukanota, like it's known. But this arousal of a person's emotions, it's only the outside of the heart. It's called the outer the outer part of a person's will. Right? We see this in politics soon, in advertising. Vote for me. I will put a chicken in every pot and money in every. Oh, this is pretty good. He sees the other guy says, no, I will put a turkey in every pot and I will put $1,000 into your bank account. And the other one says, I'll put 3 turkeys in every pot and I'll put 100,000. So whatever logic, your logic tells you, he's a good guy. No, he's not a good guy. He's a good guy, right? It's all according to your logic. Your heart gets aroused according to the evidence that's presented. That's what's called the lower will, or the outside of your heart. This is called ru'uta deliba. This is called the arousal of the heart that's born and drawn from thinking. Of course, the Rebbe here is talking about God. God. The Rebbe wants to point out, and this is what Judaism wants to point out to the world, that God is infinitely close to us. He's creating us, but he's also infinitely far from us. He's creating the angels, he's creating all the upper four. In fact, there's nothing except for God. God is creating everything, and he's doing it. It's an amazing process by which he's creating everything. Amazing. But the fact of the matter is all there is God, and God has a personality. God cares about us. We are important, not like the Eastern religions. God cares about us. God answers our prayers. God reacts to what we do. So when we think about what God is giving us, God is giving me life, and God is, so there you get emotional about God. You have to believe that there is such a thing as God. But as soon as you think that God is doing all these amazing things for me and how good God is, then your heart gets aroused. That's called the external part of your heart, because your heart is aroused because of logical reasons. Because of logical reasons, right? You come to the logical conclusion, there must be a God. Look at the order in the universe. There must be a source of the universe, right? There are all these different logical, what they call it, proofs of the existence of God. You ever read this? The teleological proof and the ontological proof and this. Anyway, the world can't come from itself. Something must have created it. So that's God. So you have all these logical reasons for loving God and caring about God and serving God. But as soon as those reasons go away, as your service goes away, what was an example of this? Communist Russia, for instance. In communist Russia, all of a sudden came along communism and said there's no God, and they succeeded. And they succeeded fantastically, and everybody was afraid of them. And everybody started believing, and it just the synagogues emptied out. And not only did the synagogues emptied out, but people's hearts emptied out. People really, truly started to believe Jews. They started to believe that, okay, I made a mistake. There's no such thing as I'm not going to risk my life just to put on tefillin to teach my children. Not. So as soon as the reason went away, so the conclusion went away. The emotions went away. The love went away. The awe went away. That's because it came from the external heart. So you love God because of all these reasons. But the inside of the heart, which is called God, the upper will of me and the upper will also of God. It doesn't come from your mind at all. Ella, who gam l'mayla me'asechel, it's above understanding. Why should I love God if there's no reason? Why? Because God exists and I'm a Jew and I'm the son of God. No logical, like a son loves his father. It could be that he loves his father beats him and does all these things, but he loves his father. Dad did it because he was an alcoholic, he had problems, and he's making up all these excuses that he would never make up for another person. Nowadays, Freud and these people tried to how do you say, what do they call it? Reduction. Had to reduce all these essential things. There's no such a love. It's just egotism. You do it for your own personal purposes. This is a very sick thing that these Freud and his followers did. Very sick. They tried to make everything according to logic, right? The reason people love, there's no such thing as real love. That's very, very sick and very, very, how do you say, external and false. It's false. There is such a thing as true love. A son can love his father, a father can love his son, his mother, the same thing, brothers can live, friends can love one another because they're friends. Without any, it could be there's no logic, right? You just see something good in the person, and then even, right? True love. The same thing with us with God. Because God is, and because God creates, and because God is our Father, or he's our creator, and you feel this. So it's above logic. It's just a fact. But Penimis, the inside of the heart, which is called the upper will, this does not change. Really, the only place you can really see this clearly was in the holiday of Purim. For those who don't know, the holiday of Purim, at least the way that Chabad explains it, there was a person called Achashverosh. He ruled over the whole world. And his chief advisor became this anti-Semite, super duper anti-Semite called Haman. And he was tremendously successful, rose up to the highest of highest levels. And he made a decree to kill all the Jews on one day. And all of the Gentiles, of course, were very happy, right? You can, first of all, do the will of the king. Also, you get a hunting day, what is it called? Open season on Jews. But there was a loophole. According to Chabad, there was a loophole. the decree was just to kill the Jews, and there was no clear definition by the non-Jews what a Jew is. Something like what the government of Israel is trying to do, water down the definition of what a Jew is. So back then, all you had to do was say, I'm not Jew. I'm not a Jew. And that's it. You just say you're not a Jew, maybe take the mezuzah off your door, and that's it. There's no decree to kill you. No decree. So any normal person that has a brain in his head will say, okay, I'm not a Jew. Leave me alone. I'm not a Jew, okay? Not a Jew. Changed his name to Gonzalez or something like that. I'm not a Jew. And that's it. So the first Rebbe of Chabad says there was no Jew from all of the Jewish people scattered around the whole world, no Jew that even thought to deny his Judaism. And this lasted for 1 full year. The decree was held over their head to kill the Jews in 1 year's time. So 1 full year, there was not one Jew that even thought to deny his Judaism. Why? Insane. Simply insane. Simple, total insanity. Makes no sense. Who would risk their life just for a word? Say, I'm not Jewish. What's the big deal? Right? Somebody comes up to you and say, I'm going to kill you if you're an American. All these, you're outnumbered 100 to 1. You haven't got any weapons. If you're an American, we're going to kill you. Are you an American? Say, no, not American. Are you an Israeli? Israeli? No. No comprende. I'm a Mexican. I don't know what you're talking about. But say you're not a Jew. No, Shema Yisrael, I am a Jew. Why? What happened? It's above law. This is above seichel. That's what it says. Levavi, my heart. The mashma shnei levavos. 2 hearts. He's serving God with 2 hearts. Hainu chitzoniat alev, the external heart, and the inside of the heart. That what it says, that what it says, that the brain rules over the heart. This is talking about your brain rules over the external heart. That if you have desires for something, you can change it by thinking differently. But that's only the external heart. Your brain can rule over, but the inside of the heart, yoter gavo, it's much, much higher than the brain. This is a certainty that a person has in his heart that all of the evidence in the world cannot change. And therefore, the brain receives from the heart. I mean, there were ample Jews, unfortunately, that were in Auschwitz. They went through it, and they came out believing in God. They came out. There was a beautiful interview with Rabbi Nissim Mengel from Chabad. He was in Hungary, and he was in the camps over there. And he saw all these people die and everything. And he said it even strengthened his belief in God. First of all, he strengthened his belief in God because he saw what's Hitler got against the Jews? Why did he pick the Jews of all the people? He picked the Jews to kill the Jews. What did the Jews do to him? Why Jews? Right? Why did he pick Jews? So because the Jews are the opposite of what he is. He's a destroyer, and we are connected to the Creator. He had other reasons, whatever it was, but the reasons weren't really reasons. The essence was, I'm a Jew, that's all. I'm a Jew. I'm not going to stop being a Jew because of this evil man. And that's above understanding, above logic. You do like it's known, that the main, we did this yesterday, that the main, how do you say, the nourishment of a person comes from the heart. That from the heart comes all of the food that a person eats in his stomach. It gets digested, the bad gets pushed out, and the good goes up to the brain, right? It goes to the heart, and the heart distributes it. So the heart is really the seat of life. Hine kol pashut, this simple cry of the shofar comes from this inside of the heart. This comes from the inside of the heart. And nimshach, and it comes out because of ahester v'hepech. It comes, where does the scream come out from? When something that's the opposite of good occurs. Because the soul comes down so low, that it comes so far away from the face of God. Shemach Maseh, because of this, as soon as a Jew realizes what has happened to me, I'm so far away from the truth, so far away from my source. When he realizes how far he's fallen just because you're born, Tigbar me'od benafsho, there is strengthened, aroused, this scream to God. But the inside of the heart is revealed, which is found in every single Jew. Like the Holy of Holies in the Holy Temple. What was revealed in the Holy of Holies? God, the Creator. They didn't invent something. They didn't even discover anything. They just revealed it. The same thing. God really does exist. God really is the source of all good. God is infinitely good, infinitely true. That's a fact. And it's a not incomprehensible fact. Because it's incomprehensibly good. And when a Jew feels how far away he is from this good, to the degree that he has no idea what it is, he just doesn't want things to get worse. Maybe good means that, his daughter gets married, those are good things. But the good that's waiting for us, and the revelation of the Creator, we forgot about that. We don't even know what it means. It's like telling a blind person that he can see, right? A person that's never seen before. He doesn't know what you're talking about. He might know that there's other people that see, but a person that was born blind, he doesn't know what, right? Explain it to a blind person, the difference between the color green and the color blue. He doesn't know what you're talking about. The same thing with us. We're talking about God, about the world of Atzilut, the world of Bria. We don't know what they're talking about because we're fallen so far away. This awakens then the inside of the heart. As soon as we realize, wow, who I really am, this is the level of a Baal Tshuva, of someone who returns to God. Therefore, the rabbis say that tzaddikim, Gemorim, total tzaddikim, cannot stand in the place where there are the Bali Tshuva. Bali Tshuva are people that return back to God because of this concealment where they were, so they really appreciate the oneness of God. It's precious to them. That's the whole purpose why God puts the soul into the bodies, in order to make the tzaddikim, which the tzaddikim is the soul, how it was before it came into the body, to become a Baal Tshuva. Because when the soul was up in heaven, the soul was like the level of a tzaddik. And then it was getting pleasure from the ray of the Shekhinah. This is what the tzaddikim do, that they are totally connected to God all the time. But nevertheless, that's what the soul is before it comes into the body. But afterwards, when the soul comes into the body, belonging to a physical body and into an animal soul, then it can become a level of a Baal Tshuva. What does it mean, Baal Tshuva? To return, ki yesh mastir or malim, because something that conceals it, there was a tremendous scream out to God. Something like living water that pushes up through the ground. Like the rabbis say, Kamaim Rizal, like it says, Hayadua de Iker Tshuva believe. The main thing of, you want to call it repentance, returning to God, returning to consciousness, is in your heart, not in your mind. Right? In your mind, you can get intellectually excited, but it has nothing to do with your personal life. Right? You can get excited, you go to a movie, you read a good book, you get excited about it, you cry, terrible things, but it has no effect on your life. You close the book, you leave the movie, and it's not me. That's the external heart. The internal heart is when a Jew, especially a Jew, realizes who he really is and how far away he has fallen from his true identity, then there's a scream out to God. Ki b'tshuva davka, there is revealed the inside of the heart. This is the level of tzaddikim gemorim, that it's like anything else, right? Before a soldier or whatever goes they make a test. You want to get into university, they make tests. You may want to get a job, they make a test. They ask you difficult questions, and the more difficult the questions are, the more it reveals where your mind really is. That's the idea. Now, but here we're talking about life. Here we're talking about reality. We're not talking about going to heaven. Here we're talking about who we really are right now. Every instant, God is creating us, and he's creating us for a purpose, a godly purpose. And we forget the fact that God's creating us, and we forget that there's a purpose. It's concealed. God concealed it. It's not our fault. But nevertheless, it's concealed. And we want to feel meaning in life. We want to feel who we really are. That's called tshuva, return. This tshuva comes from this itself, that a person thinks about how far away I am from God. That's what it says on the lower heaven. It says, Mutav l'daine, shekadai kol yisuri gehenom kuli. We talked about this before. There's this terrible, tragic, bizarre story in Jewish history. It's written in the Torah. It's written in the Talmud. The Rabbi Akiva had a compatriot, a friend, that his name was Elisha ben Avua. And Elisha ben Avua, he was an amazingly holy, genius person. He was a friend of Rabbi Akiva, but he did these whatever Kabbalistic things, and he and three others, Rabbi Akiva and him and Rabbi Ben Azai and Ben Zoma, and this Elisha ben Avua. And one of them, Rabbi Akiva, says he went into these deep secrets and he came out okay. Came out a better person. What is that? I think Ben Azai died and Ben Zoma went crazy. And this Elisha ben Avua, he did sins. He did sins. He decided there's two gods or there's two whatever it is. And he opposed Judaism, defiled all the commandments, went against everything. But on the other hand, he had learned a lot of Torah and he had done a lot of commandments before. So when he died, so there was a big problem in heaven what to do with him. He did big time sins. I don't know if he killed anybody, but he caused. It says that he informed to the Romans, if Jews were keeping Shabbat and things like that. Anyway, so he had to go to hell, but they couldn't go to hell because he had too many mitzvahs, too much Torah that he learned. So he was in the middle. He didn't know what to do. So if I'm not mistaken, it was Rabbi Meir, but I could be mistaken. I think it was Rabbi Meir. I have to look in the Gemara. So it says over there that one of his pupils prayed for him that he would go to hell. And that what type of a thing is that? He says, because if he goes to hell, so he gets purified, and then he can go to heaven. He says, okay, good, but you know what hell is? It says that hell is one instant in hell is like 70 years of the pain of Job. Job is like his whole family died, and he was filled with boils, and he was poor and destitute and everything for one full year. And it's terrible pain and shame, and it says that going to hell for 1 minute is like the pains of Job for 7 years. So how can you send a person to hell? Because it says it's mutav l'daine. It's worthwhile to get judged in hell. For how long? He went down there for 7 years or something like that. But it's better to go to hell. It says kadai. It's worthwhile all of the pains of hell in order to go to heaven even for 1 moment. With even the lower level of heaven, that's called the world of Yetzirah, the lower level of heaven. Then there's what's called a higher level of heaven, that's Gan Eden Elyon, the upper heaven. This is even higher. And how much more so that a person should be, right, if you're far away from heaven, you're missing this tremendous reward that's worthwhile to suffer. So you're missing heaven. You should feel bad. How much more so you should feel bad about being far from Atzmos Ein Sof, from the essence of God. That it says is one moment of repentance, tshuva, in this world, then it says all of the worlds to come. That's what it says. We learned that in Pirkei Avot. Didn't we learn it? Yes. We just finished learning it. It's better one moment of good deeds in this world than all of the worlds to come. All of these worlds that it's worthwhile to suffer in hell for who knows how long, just to get 1 minute of the lower heaven. The upper heaven is infinitely greater than that. And the whole thing is like nothing compared to serving God in this world. Why? Very simply, in this world and in the world to come, in the world to come, go to heaven, I get pleasure. But in this world, when I serve God, tshuva, God gets pleasure. And when a person realizes that he's missing out on this, he realizes that his whole is become selfish. He's thinking about himself, and really he could be thinking about giving pleasure to the creator of the universe, nachat ruach. When a person thinks, wow, how far away have I become? Yalibot so'ek. His heart will scream out. Because that's the whole thing of the sounding of the shofar. The sounding of the straight blast of the shofar. That's the tekiah. And afterwards, there's what's called the shvorim. That's called genuchi ganach. Hainu bechinas leiv nishbar, a broken heart. Shvorim. The blast is broken. And then there's what's called yalili yalil. Hu bechinas yisros rachamim bebechia. This is arousing mercy from God with crying. Umizen nolad v'nimshach hatekiah shenis. And from this comes the second shofar blast. 1 second. Shu, which is the this is the revelation of God's will from above. God is called what's called the rock of Levavi, my heart. We had that before. But let me just explain what's going on. When we sound the shofar, it's how they learn out exactly what we should sound in the shofar. It's a long, sort of complicated way of learning. But suffice it to say that when we sound the shofar, we say a straight blast. That's called the tekiah. Then something in the middle, a shvorim or a trua or a shvorim trua, and then a straight blast afterwards. Straight blast afterwards. The first blast is us screaming out to God. Then we have in the middle broken voices which show how broken our heart is. And then there's a second blast afterwards that's God coming back down to us. So it goes like this. Listen, straight blast, that's us from below to above. Then something in the middle. This is all us going up. And then finally, after that, there is a straight blast. That's the reaction of God from above to below. And we do that 3 times, right? We do that 3 times. Straight blast, something in the middle, straight blast. Straight blast, something in the middle, straight blast. We do it 3 times. The fact of the matter is we do that whole 3-time thing. We do that whole thing 3 times with certain variations in the middle. Okay. But it's basically the same thing. Begamkein also, Tzur Levavi, that's what God is called, the bundle or the rock of my hearts. What do you mean hearts? The external heart and the internal heart. Begamkein also, Levavi, what is Levavi? Is plural. That means the 2 hearts, like we said before, the external heart and the inside of the heart. Like we said before, the external heart, that's below logic. Like it says, B'chachmi Yesod Oretz, that God, logical, of a panimit, the inside of the heart, this is what's called the upper will, which is above any sort of understanding. Okay, so what does this mean? It means you have to have both. Sometimes a person can serve God. He wakes up, his inside heart wakes up. Wow, I am a Jew. I am special. I am the son of God. Every Jew is the son of God, the brother of God, the servant of God, the soldier of God. And I don't know any of these things. I forgot the whole business. I forgot who my identity is. Help me, God, help me. Please make my life real. right? Making my life true. I've been so far away. Right? That's the inside of the heart. But there's also the outside of the heart, right? A person can have this inside of the heart revelation and everything like that. But when it comes to day-to-day life, is he can't be always screaming out to God all the time, right? Somebody comes into his store and say, okay, I would like to buy a broom and a dustpan. Excuse me, I want to buy a broom and a dustpan. God, all there is God. I got this. I'm going to go to another store. God, all there is. You can't live life like that, right? It's good to awaken up your true inside identity, but this true inside identity also has to leave its mark on everything you do in the day, on all the words you say. God put us into this world so that we would be in the world. That's the whole idea of the Mashiach, that the world will be an active, dynamic place that everyone will be able to express their individuality and uniqueness and talents and abilities in areas that we're not even aware of. You know, a nice smile, a good word, a good thought. The opportunities for doing good are infinite below understanding. That's called the outside of the heart, penimisly, but the inside of the heart, this is what's called the upper will of God. This is above wisdom. And this wisdom is called Nikra Bechinas Asiya. And this level of wisdom that we have, which is the cause of the external heart, which is so high, our wisdom. But in regard to the inside of the heart, this level of wisdom of our mind is like physical world. It's like nothing. It's like peanuts. Like it says, Kulam b'chachma sisa, the whole wisdom of God in the creating of the world is just like action. It's like nothing at all. This level of the call, the tekiah, the sounding of the shofar, right before that was what concealed over God, the world. This sounding of the shofar, which is a simple voice, this is the revelation of the inside of the heart, which is the inside upper will of every Jew and the inside upper will of God, because God reacts. On that it says, Hashem Elokim b'shofar yitka. It says that God sounds the shofar. This is a simple voice. So it is also this drawing down of God's will every Rosh Hashanah when we sound the shofar. It's above words. It's above any logic. Like it says, the whole entire Torah are just the names of God. And when we sound the shofar, it arouses above the names. That's why a Jew can, God forbid, transgress the whole entire Torah, everything. And if he repents, he says, listen, I'm sorry, God, and he does it for the essence of his heart, is that God forgives him. Of course, he has to make remunerations. It's a little more complicated about that, but that's the essence of the thing. That's what Rosh Hashanah is. Rosh Hashanah is reminding us of this inner screaming out of the heart, which is above logic, and it wipes away sins. That's the Torah is called Mikra, is like calling the names of God. Therefore, Hanegia posel bo. V'kein chaser. Therefore, in the Torah, if there's two letters that touch each other, then the whole Torah is negated. You have to fix it up. And also, if there's missing a letter or there's one letter wrong in the Torah book, then the whole thing is disqualified. Which avol bechinat ratzon elyon, a Torah scroll can become disqualified, but a Jew can never become disqualified, because that's the inside of the heart. And this is the straight blast, which is above words. It's above every letters. That's the thing of the sound of the shofar. That's the shofar we sound now. What's going to be the shofar of the Mashiach? Oh, that we're going to talk about, God willing, tomorrow. Be with us tomorrow. Okay, thank you. Thank you for the nice, kind words. Appreciate it. All right, ready? Now we're going to learn the Devar Malchus. But I can't not tell the story. Well-known story. There's a lot of different versions of the story. I heard the story from the person it happened to. There was a Rabbi Weinberg, Rabbi Yosef Weinberg, wonderful person, intelligent person, very practical person. He used to give classes in Tanya, in Yiddish, beautiful, beautiful classes, simple explanation of the Tanya. It is a book. Now you can buy it. It's even in English, right? What is it called? The Classes in Tanya. Anyway, he tells a story, and I'll tell the story in a short way, that he once went, I heard him tell the story that he told it in front of a crowd. Then other places they said that he told it to one person. Anyway, the story is that there was he was invited to speak. He was a very good speaker. He was invited to speak in front of a bunch of donors, or one donor, or whatever. Anyway, I'll tell the story the way I tell it, the way I heard it, and you'll hear that it was wrong from a lot of people. Maybe next week you'll hear me saying that it was wrong, but okay. So he said that the Jewish people are like a Sefer Torah, and that every letter is important and every Jew is important. And that if one letter gets wiped out, then the whole Torah is not kosher. And therefore, it is so very important that every Jew should be awakened up, that he's the part of the Torah. And that's what Chabad does. We're trying to wake up the Jews and put the whole Torah together. So he went and he reported back to the Rebbe what he said, right? Went to the Lubavitcher Rebbe and said, and he was very happy with himself, And the Rebbe came back and said, it was very good, I'm wonderful, but the example you gave was not good. I was very not happy with it. He said, why? He said, because, what did you say? The Jewish people are like a Sefer Torah, and that if one letter is erased, then the Torah is not good. That's not right. He says, you can never erase a Jew. A Jew can never be erased. You should say that if one letter is covered over, then you can't read the Torah until you remove the dirt from that to know what's happening, right? Know what's happening with the letter. Maybe the letter was broken, maybe the letter touched. The story is a lot longer, but the point is that the Rebbe was very, very, how do you say, adamant to stress that a Jew can never be wiped out. And that's what he's saying. From the external, the letters of the Torah, maybe something can be wiped out. But the inside, the inner essence of what a Jew is, connected to God, can never be wiped out. So you can bring all the examples you want to and all the difficulties you want to, and a Jew can change his religion. He can become, God forbid, the Pope. He can do whatever he wants to. But in the end, he's a Jew. And it'll never go away. And there's a lot of jokes about that, but I'm not going to tell them now. Let's just go and learn the Devar Malchut.